Hi everyone. As mentioned, I'm the founder of Glisser. Before that, I was actually a marketing director and an event planner. So I've sat in your shoes for about 12 years, working in financial services and telco space, running events, internal, external, huge sponsorship events, and a lot of what we did was about being creative. My claim to fame is I was actually the first person to do speed networking in Europe. I think somebody in America beat me to it by about a month. But we came up with a company back in about 2005, just as speed dating was coming out. So we took that concept to the Hilton in Prague and had 600 people networking that way. So right back in 2005, we were coming up with creative ideas to engage audiences and get people participating. So the session today, obviously we're using our tech. So please do log in at gsr.it/BNC19. But we will be doing some kind of low-tech participation as well. Hence, there's a lot of Lego lying around, there's pens and scraps of paper. So this is going to be looking at both the way we can engage with technology, but also low-tech solutions. So one of the first points to make is that engagement isn't just about having fun with your audience, it's actually about getting data points, because those data points can be useful to you. So the question that I'm asking you here, once you've logged in and gone into the session, is when you run your events, think about what they're for. Very often they're for many of these things, but usually there's one primary driver, the objective of the event. Very often it's for selling things. If you work for a company and you invite customers or prospective customers, it's to sell stuff. In that case, vote for that. Often it's about creating networking opportunities, getting people to talk together. Sometimes it's about building a brand. The perception of your company, the way where you go, the food that you give, and the things that you do is about building your brand. And some events are about educating. Broadly, events fall into these four areas. So if you pick the one that's appropriate to you, we'll bring up that poll result and see where we are today. Okay, so a nice split, a lot of networking. Interestingly, a lot of selling things. So different audiences, we see selling things being quite an important reason for doing the event. But otherwise, we're broadly split about brand building, networking, and educating. Okay, so why do we bother with interaction? That's a good question to ask, because otherwise, what's the point? It takes a bit of effort to make a presentation interactive. It takes effort to come up with quiz questions. It takes effort to go to the Lego shop and buy a ton of Lego so that I can do this like this. It would be much easier for me just to do a PowerPoint presentation. So why put the effort? This is the analogy that I use. So this is the Science Museum. So at the Science Museum, this exhibit here is the farming exhibit. And it was created in 1970, and you basically look through glass boxes at models of tractors. That's how we taught kids in the 1970s. Look at models of tractors and try to learn. Now you go to the other exhibits and you get to play with everything. You get to dive into it, you get to smell stuff, you get to feel stuff and touch stuff. It's really exciting. For the kids, it engages them. So there's two reasons why we use audience engagement. One, it's more fun if you get to participate. And two, you actually learn more if you get to participate. So those of you that are running educational events, think about it like that. If you get people involved in participating, they're more likely to remember the stuff that you're telling them when they leave that room. The other reason why we do it is because it's useful for us as event planners. When we get people participating and doing things, that gives us feedback. We ask them to provide us feedback, we ask them to take part in quizzes. If we ask them to ask us questions as we're on stage, which you can do through the product, please do that as well. That's giving me data, that's telling me the things that you want to hear about, that's telling me the concerns you have. And as somebody that's presenting, or somebody that's writing blogs, or somebody who's trying to sell my company, I can listen to what you're saying and can help me understand what you need. So that's valuable data for me. And it makes your events better, they're more memorable. You get better, you get higher commendation. People will come up to you and say, I love that session, it was really interactive, well done. So there's two clear reasons as event planners why you should be making events interactive. Collecting data, feedback from your audience, your customers, and two, because it simply makes the events better if people can get them. Another point, we're talking about high-tech and low-tech. I think that's quite important. These two methods engage different parts of your brain. High-tech tends to be a little bit more sort of right side, driving data, the analytical kind of approach. Low-tech, I've got Lego. People are already starting to fondle the Lego. I can see it. It's interesting. It's tactile. It opens up that creative side of your brain, and that's good because you're giving a different opportunity to your audiences to do something which they wouldn't normally do. You think about finance professionals. They're normally sitting there working with numbers all day. They rarely get to play around with Lego, except maybe when they go home to their kids. So you start to get them out of that comfort zone, you start to get their brains working in a different way, which is often a big reason for getting people out of the office. So low tech has its massive advantages. The advantages of high tech is the data. Every time you're touching your screen, we're collecting information about you. We know what you like, what slides you're looking at, what notes you're taking on those slides, what questions you have. All of that information is powerful. With the low tech stuff, it's very hard to kind of record that information. It's great in the moment, but low tech's quite hard to sort of take on and use later. Move on. And the other point to make just before we go into the examples is don't use tech for tech's sake. We all hear that. These are 3 ridiculous objects that I found. That's a laser-guided pair of scissors. That's a portable watermelon carrier, and that's a remote control tissue box. So these have been invented. They're mostly in Japan, as you'd imagine. Don't use tech for tech's sake. Don't go, oh, I want to use an app. Why are you using an app? What are you trying to achieve? What's the event trying to achieve? Think about whether technology will enable that or not. If it doesn't, don't use technology. That's from a technology seller. I want you to use technology, but don't use it just because you think it's cool. Use it because you're trying to achieve something with it. Okay, so we're going into a quiz. I didn't know the answer to this. I asked the 5 younger members in my team what the answer was. So we're going to do a quiz. It's 3 questions on the app, and we're going to bring up a leaderboard. So this is a bit of fun. So the first question is, who's just walked off of Love Island? If we go to the next question first, entirely different question, when was Central Hall Westminster built? And the next one, what does Glisser mean in French? And you've got fast, smart, slide, and speak. So that'll all come up on your phone. We'll just roll back to the first question so that we can show you the answers and what everybody guessed. So I'll give you just a few seconds to finish answering those, so you don't cheat. Okay, so the majority of you voted for Amy. Was that the right answer? Yes, it was. Don't know who she is. Next one, when was Central Hall Westminster built? Most voted for the early one. That's interesting. What was the right answer? 1911. So not so necessarily clearly Love Island fans, not history and architecture fans. Okay, next one. What does Glisser mean in French? Smart. And where's she gone for slide? The answer is slide. Hence, we're a slide sharing company, so we call it slide. That's good. Hopefully you'll remember that now. So we've done a learning component, as I said. And we can see, look at all those top answers. And Rebecca Rahan, well done. We'll give you a prize later. You got them all right, and you did it in the fastest time. But as you can see there, that's a really simple way to create a quiz element in an event, get people learning. We all know what Glisser means in French now. We all definitely know who got kicked off, or who walked off of Love Island, so it helps learning. Now there's another way we can do quizzing in a low-tech way. Okay, now we've all got Lego blocks, so rather than voting through our phones, we're going to vote with our Lego blocks. So there's 3 questions, and I want you to put the blocks in order based upon the answers to the 3 questions. So the first question is, when was Lego invented? If you think it's 1922, get your orange block ready, and that's going to be the first one in your series of blocks. Have a guess. So pick your colour, 22, 27, 32 or 37. The next question is, what does Lego mean in Danish? Is it to block, learn, build it, play well? There's a clue in that you've only got one of each colour, so you can't have the same guess twice. Otherwise you definitely vote wrong. And the third one is, what's the price of the single most expensive Lego set? Okay, so when you've answered your questions, can you hold them and hold your Lego blocks up with the first answer at the top? So the when was Lego invented answer at the top. Okay, everyone hold them up. Hi, so we can all see who got it right and who got it wrong. Okay. If your Lego block looks like that, green, red, orange, you've won. Does anyone have green, red, orange? Yes, well done. So, that's just another way of doing exactly the same thing. We can run a quiz with Lego blocks. So, just to kind of put this in some context, we've done a low-tech and a high-tech interactive quiz there. That's good for recall, that's good for educational events. Now we're going to talk about networking. We can use technology as well to do things like word clouds. So here's a word cloud that we popped up here, but actually on your apps, if you go back into Glisser, at the bottom there's an opportunity to ask questions, and you can tap in a question for me to answer. But instead of that, I want you to write in there how you're feeling about this presentation so far. So is it good, bad, indifferent? Is it interesting? Quickly tap that in. It's just one word answer to send that through. The reason for doing something like a word cloud is that we can actually visualize it. So it's quite good for creating word clouds. We can snap them, we can tweet them, we can share them online. They're very visual, they're very interesting, that's good. But once you create these word clouds, you can obviously do them with hundreds and thousands of people and get a really quick visual piece that you can share on social media. Now, obviously, if you've got a few more, clearly interesting to the winning option there, so, but you can get some quite creative word clouds. Another low-tech way of doing it is to get people drawing. So some of you have got pens on there. There's also stickers. So some Glisser stickers that have a blank other side. Now what I want you to do is, quickly in a minute, is to draw yourself on those on the other side. So a quick self-portrait. Now, why do we do this? I think it's really interesting. It's really easy for people to take photographs now to make them look great with Instagram. But you can create unique content if you get people drawing, because you just don't do it very often. It's quite hard, and the results are quite funny. So it's an interesting thing to get people doing. What we're going to do is, if you leave your drawings on your chairs, you don't have to put your names on them, but we will be picking them up afterwards, and we're going to be putting them onto our Instagram feed to show you the audience that I had. So it's going to create us some really interesting content. It's a bit more interesting than me just doing a selfie on stage, as everyone's doing now. I'm going to have drawings of my audience, and some of them are going to be great, some of them are going to be awful. But what we're doing is creating content, we're creating something visual. It's great for kind of building your brand in this space. The next thing we're going to be doing is talking about networking. So you run events useful for networking. How many of you know that there's a networking feature on your LinkedIn app? Does anyone use that? People don't tend to use it because everybody has it switched off by default. But hands up if you've got the LinkedIn app on your phones. Who's got the links to it? Most people. Okay, can you all go into the app really quickly? And on the iPhone, it's the second one along. It's the sort of people icon along the bottom. I don't know what it is on an Android. But if you select that, and then you go to the screen, and right at the top in the middle, it says Find Nearby, and it will say Off. If you tap that, that's going to start finding everyone in the room that's also got that switched off. So what we're doing there is creating an instant network amongst this group of people. Suddenly, I can see you all, and I can start deciding to connect with you. Now, if you want to, you can connect and accept. If you don't have to. But instantly, it's an opportunity for you to connect with other people in this room, for me to connect with you as a speaker. So the problem with this application is that most people have it switched off to save their battery, or because they don't want to walk around with Bluetooth. But actually, if you create an environment where everybody switches it on just for a period of time, you can create that networking element. You can get people connecting on LinkedIn, and then hopefully they can find those connections in real life and start networking in person. So it's a free app, it's on LinkedIn, nearly everyone has it. You probably don't need to pay for a networking app if you can use this successfully. How do you get people networking in a low-tech way? You can do speed networking, which is the concept we came up with before. One thing we're going to do really, really quickly, because we're probably short on time, is we're gonna build something out of our Lego. Now I know you haven't got many pieces, so it's really hard, you've got to be really creative. But what I want you to do is to build something like an aeroplane or a bird or a brick wall, if that's what you want to build. And to build that and turn to somebody nearby, I know we all hate this bit, I certainly hate it, I've got to speak to the person next to me a bit. Turn to them and tell them what you've built and explain what it is. So spend 30 seconds building, and then we'll have a quick conversation with a neighbour, try to sell them the thing that you've just built. So just another creative exercise. With more Lego, you can obviously be more ambitious. But again, it's using that part of your brain that you're not normally using, just trying to do something easier, trying to make it easy, give a reason to turn to the person next to you that isn't the reason that when we normally do events, it's introduce yourself, say something about yourself. It's kind of like happy need, we don't do that. Far more fun to get people being creative. Again, different types of audiences. This isn't something that they get to do day to day. Give them something tactile like Lego. I'm not on the Lego marketing board, but something like this just gets them talking and thinking differently. So what we've done here is we've built LinkedIn networks and we've done creative partnerships. We've been creative and we've shared our stories with each other. So the final thing we talk about is what I call revenue, so events where you're trying to sell something. If you're running an event and if you're doing a speaking slot like I am here, it's really important that you get feedback and you listen to the people, because the people that have a positive experience here today are more likely to be positive about my product, or be more positive about me as an individual. So asking for feedback is really important. There's high-tech ways and low-tech ways of gathering feedback. Obviously, the high-tech way is we can use the application. So we can flip forward a slide. You can rate my session out of 5. And I'm going to show the results up on the screen, so please be nice to me. We can see the data, so if anyone gives me a 1, I'm going to find you. There we go. See, so I can see that positivity. We get instant feedback. The thing about collecting feedback is, if you do it after your events, a day later with a SurveyMonkey, your feedback response rate will be 5 to 10%, 30% if you're lucky and you craft a great email. If you use feedback forms on chairs, you'll probably get a higher level of feedback, because somebody's got to go and collect all those forms up, type them up, turn them into data, send them to somebody. It creates like kind of a challenging task. If you're using an app like Glisser or a downloadable app like Cvent or Noodle Live, it's much easier to collect that stuff in the moment. People are more likely to just spend 1 second at the end of the session giving you a vote. And doing that little and often in your sessions really works. Don't do a big feedback form at the end. Just after each session, 1 or 2 questions, get that feedback, get that data, and use that to analyse whether people have had a good time in your session and whether it's been valuable. The other point to make is the piece that why we get really high feedback with our product is that our product, we do slide sharing. So in order to download the slides, you've got to get past the feedback. So that's the reward. If people want your slide decks, they've got to provide the feedback. We can make that feedback mandatory. If you don't answer the feedback, you're not going to get the slides, and you're not going to get onto the notes that you've written against the slides. So by using that, you've got a kind of reward incentive structure. And we get levels of feedback in 80 to 90% for all of the events we run, because we advise doing that. So if you just want to get feedback, really simple thing to do it live in the moment and incentivize it with the slides. Now the way to do feedback in a low-tech way, normally I would do it with ping pong balls. So one way of doing it is to have 2 buckets as you leave the venue. One on the right-hand side for loved it, one on the left-hand side for didn't like it. And you give everyone a ping pong ball, and as they walk out, they put it into the right bucket. That was actually how the Innocent Smoothies guys started their business. They created the smoothies, ran a stall at a festival, and asked everyone just to put the empty containers into the bucket, which one said, they basically said, should we quit our jobs and start Innocent Smoothies? Yes or no, and the bucket with the yes overwhelmingly filled up. So they quit their jobs and started smoothies, and that's how that story started. So really, really simple feedback works, and it can drive big decisions like that. Because I haven't got ping pong balls, because I didn't have time to go to the ping pong ball shop, instead, hold up your green Lego if you thought this was a good session, hold up your red Lego if you thought this was a bad session, give me an orange if you thought it was a bad session, but you don't want to hold the red up in front of me. Okay, I've got some greens. Okay, thank you. So that's a kind of low-tech way of doing that. You can see it's taking the kind of raising hands concept and making it a bit different. It's a bit like Ready, Steady, Cook. So by using colours and things, coloured paddles, you give people more options than just yes or no. It's quite an interesting way of doing it. First of all, ebook, if you want this, on the application you can halve this slide. So if you want us to send you this is a sort of 10-page ebook that we've written about this subject that might be useful, might be like some reminders of what we've gone through today. Just halve that slide. And then I'm going to answer any questions that I've got. I think we've got a couple of minutes left. So we go to the top. So how do you see 5G impacting events? I think it's going to be a while before everyone's onto 5G, but it's launched now. I think 4G took about a year before nearly every network made it available after EE. I think the key thing is that it's going to make us less dependent on Wi-Fi networks. I know we run an event here in this hall, in the main hall here, for a government department, and they had 900 delegates, and they didn't give them the Wi-Fi. So everyone was running Glisser just off 4G, and it worked perfectly. Admittedly, we're in central London, so there's great 4G here on all the networks. But once 5G takes off, it's just going to make Wi-Fi less and less important, and less of a requirement to run all of this stuff. What do you think the key ingredients that would make a would-be delegate want to attend a corporate event? I can only go from experience. I think venue is super important. A venue that promises something different and cater to your audience. I certainly, when I worked in financial services, we used a lot of sports venues, predominantly male audience, unfortunately. Sports venues were interesting, places that they hadn't been to before, opportunities to see sporting memorabilia and meet stars was always a very effective way of getting them to events. And incentivize them. I think with the generation coming through, venues which are Instagrammable, venues that they want to go to, take photos of. Small events at private members clubs still do really well because people like to see the inside of those private members clubs. So venues important, and then content. Senior people don't normally leave the office for something if there's not something valuable there. They want to know who's speaking and that they're relevant and who else might be there. So the usual stuff, it's not really a tech question. Attendee satisfaction. I'll answer this one, it's the last one, I'm running out of time, but the others I'll try to get to in my follow-up. Attendee satisfaction, I think a net promoter score is really good, so rating 1 to 10, and then you basically count the positive ones, so 9s and 10s, deduct the negative ones and come up with an overall score. That's valuable because you compare it year on year. You can also compare it with everyone else's score. We've actually found, a bit like the ping pong ball thing, we now do, most of our clients, we do emoji feedback rating. So smiley face, sad face, in between face. We have a client that uses the emoticon poo icon for a really bad event. We found that works really well. People just like hitting those smiley faces. It's a bit like leaving an airport when you go through check-in. It's really easy just to hit smiley face. We get a higher response rate from that than we do for a 1 to 10 rating. So easy tip, change it to emojis, you'll get higher feedback and you'll get a measure that satisfaction. So we've got to stand here. I'm around for about an hour. If you want to catch up with me and ask me any detailed questions, please come and find me. Thank you for taking part.